section so that they can have it and you can play it over and listen to all the stuff that comes out during this session. Let's start invoking the Guru Parapara. Tadparam Paryaya Vidmahe Jnanalingeshwaraya Dhimahi Tanno Guruh Prachodayate Om Yoga Maharshi Dr. Swami Geetananda Giri Guru Maharaj Ki Jai. Om Yogena Chittasya Padena Vacham Malam Sharirasya Cha Vaidyakena Yopakarotam Pravaram Muninam Padanjalim Pranjalivarnatosmi. Om Sahana Bhavatu Sahano Bhunaktu Sahaviryam Karavavahi Tejasvinavadhitamastu Ma Vidvishavai. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Om Adhikara Yoga, a very beautiful term that many years ago I came upon for the first time thanks to a very wonderful yogi, someone who was a dear friend of Swamiji, someone who served as Vice Chancellor at Banaras Hindu University in Varanasi, and someone who was one of the founding fathers of the Indian Academy of Yoga, Professor T.R. Anantharaman. Professor Anantharaman had written a beautiful book, and I recollect as a young boy gazing through that book that was on Swamiji's shelf. And in this book, for the first time, I heard this phrase, Adhikara Yoga. And ever since, it has settled in my mind, it has settled in my heart. When I was thinking, what would be my next offering to all of you? At that moment, this came to mind and I realized, Adhikara Yoga. Adhikara Yoga is the key. When we use this word Adhikara Yoga, what do we mean by it? The term Adhikara means someone who has authority, someone who is fit. And that is why the term Adhikarin is used. Adhikarin is someone who is fit for the higher life, someone who is fit for the higher spiritual path, someone who is indeed fit to be on this path towards liberation or kaivalya. We often use the word Adhikara in Tamil, our local vernacular language here, as Adhikaram, which is authority. And often you find people asking each other when they are in an argument, what is your Adhikaram? On what basis, on what authority are you saying what you are saying? On what basis are you doing what you are doing? And this has come into the local language in that context. But the context in yoga is to become fit for the path of yoga itself, because yoga is not just a set of physical exercises for the body or for the breath. Yoga is both the path, the process, and the goal of liberation itself. It is both the process as well as the goal. That is the beauty of yoga itself. In fact, Vyasa, the codifier, in his commentary on the Yoga Sutra, Vyasa tells us, Yoga has samadhi. Yoga is samadhi itself. So yoga as both the means as well as the goal of one's sadhana. This is why I remember as a small kid in school, and for those who don't know me, I escaped the first 12 years of being in school. So I was 13 when I joined school, official schooling. Saved a lot of brain cells that get, doom, 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 and they shoot them out so they don't work later. I remember in one of our English lessons, we had a beautiful lesson in English, and our teacher, Kumaraswamy sir, I still remember him. He gave us a long discussion on whether the means justifies the end or the end justifies the means. It was a very beautiful lesson, and I was very taken by it, because for me, already having grown up from the moment of conception in yoga, I like this discussion. Do the means justify the end, or the end justify the means? Because here, yoga is both the means and the end. That is the beauty of yoga. And that is why we cannot separate the goal of yoga from the process of yoga, because the process and the goal are one and the same. That is why yoga has to be alive in every moment of our life. Yoga has to come alive in every breath. Otherwise, it cannot transform us. And if it doesn't transform us, I question whether it is yoga in the first place. Because if yoga doesn't transform us, it is not yoga. It is a clone. It is a fake. It is an artificial entity. And that is why for me, when I think modern yoga, I think plastic. To me, modern yoga is plastic. Yoga is gold, not plastic. Yoga is not a path for the meek. Sorry, for the weak. Meek is a beautiful word. And for a long time, I confused the word weak and meek, till I realized, I was like, why should the weak inherit the earth? And then I realized it's the meek, which means humility. It's a very different word, but if you're not a native English speaker like me, it's a bit confusing at times. He gave in meekly is how we understand. So we think it's weak. We don't think it is humility. Yoga is not a path for the weak, especially for the weak of heart. And that is why Maharishi Patanjali, my dear Superman, Pat, superhero Pat, as those who know me know how I feel for Maharishi Patanjali, his superhero Pat, that time traveler. He tells us, if you want to be on this path, you have to have certain qualities. Prerequisites are essential to be on this path. It is amazing what Patanjali tells us. He starts off Shraddha, commitment, conviction, faith. Virya, valor, strength, courage, endurance. Very beautiful. Shraddha, Virya. Smriti, the capacity to remember the lessons and absorb the lessons you have learned. so that you grow from those lessons. Anything that enables you to grow is a lesson. Whether it was pleasant or unpleasant doesn't matter. Shraddha, Virya, Smriti, Samadhi, Prajna, the capacity, the wisdom, the intellectual capacity for Samadhi. These are prerequisites for yoga according to Maharishi Patanjali. In Maharishi Patanjali's scheme of things, the foundation is based on Yama, Niyama. And if you build a building on shifting sand, it is never going to be stable. And in modern times, we start off yoga sadhana with asana. We are lucky if any pranayama comes in, and then a little bit of fake meditation, plasticized meditation, which is more imagination. The real yoga starts with ahimsa, non-violentness. That is where it all starts. That is the first brick of your foundation. And yet we find people kill each other. My yoga is better than your yoga. My guru is better than yours. And people end up so violent against each other. Yoga has no place for fanaticism of any kind, because yoga is the middle path. Yoga is the golden mean. That is where both Buddha and Patanjali come together and have chai together. The golden mean of Buddhism and the golden mean of Maharishi Patanjali. That's the kappa of chai together. I like these visualizations of these people in the same place, just having a nice conversation of a cup of Indian chai. This is important. They have to be alive. We put them in stone and we think they are dead. We think they are in the past. No, they are present in every moment, just as we are present. These great masters are present. They are Siranjeevi. They are the immortals who are always present. And the moment you start to live these teachings, they continue to be alive through you. It is said, Lord Hanuman is an immortal, a Siranjeevi. And wherever the Rama Nama, Shri Ram, Jaya Ram, Jaya Jaya Ram, 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 Jaya Jaya Ram. Wherever Ramanama is sung, Hanuman comes alive. He has the Ashta Siddhi. All the Siddhis come alive in Hanuman. Navadidhi, all the treasures, the 9 treasures come alive in him. He is the embodiment of yoga, Bhakti Yoga itself. Such an amazing concept is there that these teachers, these masters, they are alive in their teaching. I told someone, I may miss my father's physical presence. I may miss my father's physical presence, especially, I was telling Divya the other day, it would be so nice to talk to my father about this integration of how yoga and medicine comes together. It would be such a beautiful conversation sitting across the table. I don't think I would dare sit across the table from him. I would be sitting at his feet. I am the ant, he is the giant. Always the ant and the giant. Yet, though I may miss him physically, every time I am in his teachings, I'm sharing his teachings, he's alive in me. More and more, every day, I am finding him more and more come alive in me as I continue their teachings. All the great masters, Swami Sachidananda, Swami Rama, all of these grand masters, Swami Kuvalayananda, all of them, they come alive when we live the teachings. Just putting his photo and saying Swamiji will never help. We need to live his teachings. And I have my dear, very, very dear Rama Reddy Garu with us. He is such a senior medical doctor, a psychiatrist, an awardee of the highest award. Yesterday was Doctor's Day in India, which was celebrated in memory of Dr. B.C. Roy. And B.C. Roy was one of the greatest Indian doctors. And Dr. Rama Reddy Garu was awarded B.C. Roy award some years ago. And his greatness is, he is 20 years, nearly 20 years older than me, and yet has registered for his PhD in yoga therapy. I don't know if I will guide him or he will guide me at our university. So he is part of our course. And you can see he has a beautiful Patanjali and Swamiji behind him as his background. Love you, sir. Love you, sir. You are such an example of what greatness is. So many of you, I see my dear Susie there. Such a loving soul. Love you, Susie. Swami Sachidananda, Swami Rama, Swami Veda Bharati. Such an amazing person. All of these grand masters in modern times, all the masters of the ancient times, they come alive. Alex is with us from Melbourne. Sri Bala, such an amazing living example he was of yoga, especially of the pranava, vibrational breath therapy, the pranava. This is the core of yoga. It is living. It is not something that was in the past. It is in the present. That is why Atha Yoga Anushasanam, it has to be Atha, it has to be in the now. In the now, the discipline of yoga starts. I just translated it straight away for you in the chanting way. In the now, the discipline of yoga starts. Yoga. We should make one of those. That would be a nice project. Yama Niyama are the foundation on which the whole can be built. Yet, these are neglected. Why are they neglected? That is the question I wanted to deal with. Why they are neglected is we are scared. We are scared to contemplate the Yama Niyama. That is why they are neglected. Why are we scared? Because we are afraid to look at ourselves and realize what a mess we are. This is actually the truth. Why do we get scared of the Yama Niyama? Because we are afraid to look at ourselves and realize what a mess we are, because we know these concepts. Even my young kids at Yoganjali Natyalayam, you ask them, what are the Pancha Yama? Immediately will come, Ahimsa, Satya, Asteya, Brahmacharya, Aparigraha, Yamaha. They will tell it beautifully. Better than any parrot can repeat it, they'll repeat it. What are the 5 niyamas? Saucha, Santosha, Tapas, Swadhyaya, Ishvara, Pranidhanani. Yes. The problem is, you know the terms. You may know what they mean. But are they coming alive in you? Don't talk about that, Dr. Ananda. That's the tough one. When the CCTV turns on us, when we have to look at ourselves, no, please, can I watch another TV channel? Can I watch a 24-hour news channel that tells me everything about what's happening in everybody else's life, not my life? That is why we are scared of the Yama Niyama. And so, in modern yoga, either they are hidden under the carpet, or if they are brought up, it is in a very superficial manner. Oh, Patanjali has 5 yama, 5 niyama. And then immediately people say, you mean 10? And they say 10. And people say, oh, the 10 commandments. And gone. Already you have gone off on such a tangent, you're never going to get off it. Because the moment you say 10 commandments, people, all the negativity about religion and organized religion and someone telling you what to do, and if you don't do it, you will go to hell and all of that, immediately all that baggage, boom, in your face, the bomb goes off. And so people are scared of it. There's a big difference. The yama niyama are to be lived not because otherwise you will go to jail or you will go to hell. They are not, oh, if you don't do this, the big divine God is going to spank you. Or it is not because Patanjali will come and be cross at you. No, 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 no. The yama niyama are lived for the sake of your own spiritual evolution, for your own guidance, for your own evolution towards that highest liberated state of Kaivalya. You are living it for the sake of your own self, not for anybody else, not because of anybody else, not because of what will come or what will not come. You are living the yama niyama for the sake of living the yama niyama so that you can be yourself. They are very, very different. The whole purpose of the yama and niyama is so that you are you. And you can be on that journey where the drop can go and become one with the ocean. That is basically the whole principle here. And that is why the yama niyama come together as Adhikara yoga, because when you start to live the yama niyama, you start to become fit for that path. You start to have the capacity to walk the path of yoga. Without the yama niyama, you can do something that looks like yoga. You remember my plastic yoga comment? You can do something that looks like yoga, but it will not be yoga. Because yoga, that integrative, unitive principle will only come alive when the yama niyama are there. Without the base of the yama niyama, the rest of it cannot be built and cannot be strong. It is like building your house without cement. Just you have the bricks but no cement, nothing to hold the bricks together, and then suddenly everything collapses. Because you have not built it with something that holds it together. What is it that holds the whole yogic life together? It is the yama niyama. And this is where Ammaji comes to our rescue as usual. Ammaji makes a beautiful statement. She says, when you are performing swadhyaya, which is also one of the niyamas, we'll come to that later. When you are performing swadhyaya, which can be translated as introspectional self-analysis. Introspectional self-analysis, in modern times we call it self-reflective learning. This is the modern academic framework for the same thing. Self-reflective learning is what swadhyaya is all about. And she says, when you are performing swadhyaya, when you are observing yourself, she says it is very important that 3 things are taken into consideration. The first thing, the first and foremost, do not identify. Because that is the core. The moment you identify, the rest of it is going to go out the window, okay? So you need to be able to observe yourself without identification. That is the first part. The second, without condemnation. Because that is what happens. I am so bad. I am not worth it. Gone. Once that starts, your whole swadhyaya has gone out the window. And you have gone into that wallowing and self-pity, that deep well, that you build and you jump into the bottom and won't come out even when people want you to come out. So to observe oneself, to reflect on oneself without identification, without condemnation, and then the third very important one, without justification. Ammaji's wise words are so vital on this path, because these three components have to come together. And I believe she was very influenced by J. Krishnamurti, Jiddu Krishnamurti, and his thought patterns in this. Because I believe she got this from his teachings. And Amma and Swamiji, when they used to go to Chennai, would visit Jiddu Krishnamurti. I remember as a small kid seeing this old man and wondering why Swamiji and Amma were talking with him. Same thing when Swamiji and Amma would meet Swami Chinmayananda and have discussions, what are these two people doing there? As a kid, you don't know how blessed you are. And then later on you realize, oh my God, presence of masters. And because I was that little monkey, I didn't even know what was going on. The monkey consciousness, the days of Ananda's monkey consciousness. I was one with my monkeys. I loved my monkeys. We played together. We climbed trees together. So I say it with deep affection for my monkey friends. My Tarzan days. When we want to do this process, because for Yama Niyama, for us to become an Adhikarin, one who is fit for the highest, the Adi. Remember, Sama Adi is Samadhi. When you are at the level of the highest, Adi is the highest, or Adi is the source, Adi is the causal level of existence. Adi can mean the source, the causal, and it can also mean this origin. That is why when we talk of Shiva as auspiciousness, consciousness, Tadeko Vashishta Shiva Kevaloham, not as Lord Shiva who's sitting on Mount Kailash having chai with Parvati, not that personification of Shiva. The consciousness of Shiva, Shiva consciousness, Krishna consciousness, Christ consciousness. We are talking of an elevated consciousness when we are talking of this. When we talk of that consciousness, that higher consciousness, we are talking of something that has no beginning, has no end. So the term used in Indian languages for this is Anadi. Adi means the origin or the cause. Anadi, that A-N before it. Anadi means that which has no origin. There is no origin. It is Anadi. Adi is that which has origin. So we talk of psychosomatic diseases and disorders as being Adija Vyadi. So they are the Vyadi, the disease, the disorder from the causal, the higher disconnect between us and the universe. The psychosomatic disconnect leading to disorder is called Adija or Adi Vyadi. Adija, Ja means to give birth. Jananam, Genesis. Ja is to give birth. Adija Vyadi is that disease that comes from the higher level where we have disconnected at the higher level, and hence the lower level is having the disorder. You reconnect at the higher level, your Zoom meeting is going on without any interruption. And you are again connected to the net, you have a good connection, everything is fine, all is well. You get disconnected, everything gets cut. It's as simple. Connecting to the source, Adi. Anadi as that which doesn't have a source. It is eternal, Anadi. And we use another word, Ananta. Adi can be written as A-D-H-I or A-D-I. It depends, because transliteration wise, I think it would be A-D-I. but I like to add the H because otherwise people end up saying RD. So ADHI enables people to know it is RD and not RT. So it's one of those things that transliteration is slightly different than the way you write it when you want people to say the sound in as close to the original as possible. It's going to differ with accents. It's definitely going to differ. So, don't worry about that. The Ananta, Anta, A-N-T-A-H, Anta means an end. So the word Ananta, this is not Ananda, Ananta, A-N-A-N-T-A-H. Some people put it as T-H-A, Ananta, which means that which has no end. And this is also the name for the serpent on whose bed lies Lord Vishnu in Indian culture. He is called the Ananta, and it is said that Adishesha Ananta, Patanjali is an incarnation of that serpent, that energy. I'm just putting these in connection for you so that you start to see the pieces of the jigsaw puzzle. So Ananta means that which is endless, that which is infinite. Anadi, that which is eternal, has no beginning. Ananta, that which has no end, which is infinite. Adiyum antamum illa, we say, without beginning or end. So Adi, the word, has multiple connotations, but here we can use it as the highest, the most subtlest level of existence from which everything has come. The causal plane of existence is another way to understand the term Adi. And that is why Sama Adi is when you have elevated your consciousness to that level of highest level of consciousness. It is called Sama Adi, Samadhi. Now coming back, when you want to reach that Adi, you have to be an Adhikaran. Kara means to do. So you have to be able to work towards that highest, and that is why Adhikaran is one who is fit for that highest state. And that is why Yama Niyama is called Adhikara Yoga. It is that foundational aspect of yoga that maintains, sustains, and regains the fitness. First word should be attain. Helps us attain, sustain, maintain, regain the fitness for the path of yoga towards the highest. And you become an Adhikarin. A-D-H-I-K-A-R-I-N. Adhikarin is one who is fit for the journey towards the Adi. And that is why Yama Niyama is called Adhikara Yoga. That is why I didn't just say, oh, this will be 6 classes on Yama Niyama. Why did I call it Adhikara Yoga? Because this is the foundation that makes us fit for the rest of the journey. And yet today, we try to have a shortcut. It's just astonishing what we human beings do. No wonder the Greek philosophers called us featherless bipeds. We are just bird brains, and with, what was it, flat nails. We are the flat-nailed, featherless bipeds to distinguish us from, the plucked chickens, which are round-nailed, featherless bipeds. So the plucked chicken is the round-nailed, featherless biped. We are the flat-nailed, platy, Nokia, we say, when you have flat nails. Flat-nailed, featherless biped bird brains. That's what the Greek philosophers called us, and they were not off the mark too far. No wonder we want the shortcut, without realizing that the journey is the whole thing is the journey. It's like life. What is life? It is the space from birth to death. Life is the space from birth to death. Now, the goal is not to die as early as possible. That's not the goal of life. The goal of life is to live in that space between birth and death, to live life fully. That is what the principle is. And that is why it is not about, oh, yoga is samadhi, so if somebody can give me a shortcut to samadhi, I will take it. No, there's no shortcut to samadhi, because the whole journey itself is the process and the goal of samadhi. That is why yoga is both the process and the goal. And people think it's only the goal. And that is why, as Swamiji would say, you have to do the first things first. And that is why yoga has to be step by step. It's like climbing a ladder. You need to go each rung one at a time. You have to do what needs to be done that day, that moment, if you are to grow. That is the whole purpose of Adhikara Yoga. Now, coming back to Ammaji's statement, observing ourselves without identification. How can we do this? Because the biggest problem we all have is something called avidya, which is one of the pancha kleshas, the 5 psychological distorters with which we are born. They are the inborn errors of perception. You know, as a doctor, we hear inborn errors of metabolism. And phenylketonuria, you have all these different disorders, inborn errors of metabolism. The moment you are born human, you have an inborn error of perception, and that is the klesha. It's like it comes preloaded in your system. The malware in your computer. And these kleshas, they are the root of everything. All the problems can be traced to the kleshas. And during these sessions, we are going to be talking about it. Because the kleshas, if you want to deal with the kleshas, the yama and niyama are a must. Without the yama niyama, you cannot even approach the kleshas, because the kleshas are so well hidden. The first of the kleshas is avidya, ignorance. And people say, okay, fine, so give me a book, I'll read the book, and I'll become wise, I won't be ignorant anymore. No. After reading that book, you will just be a bit more ignorant with a bit more bookish knowledge. That's all. And that is why I often talk of people who have double PhDs in ignorance. So it is a very big issue we all have. People think, even today I was asked, tell us some books that are good to know about yoga. I'm like, seriously. Seriously. You need to connect to a living tradition. There's just no other way, okay? That's all. I write books, 24 books. The 24th was the beautiful book with my dear Canadian mom, Lee, which is struggling to release because of COVID-19. Should have been released last month. And the 25th is coming out very soon. I'll let you know most probably next week about it. The Silver Jubilee one. And I tell you seriously, if I can give you one good advice, don't read any of my books. The reason is I don't read them. And the reason is anything in a book has got stuck where it is. And that is why the living tradition is where the teachings are constantly evolving. Now, one thing which is very funny is my father's Yoga Step by Step, which is a 52-lesson course which was put into a book. And I tell you, that book is possessed. It is a possessed book because every time you read it, new lines appear in the book. And I don't know where they come from. He did some magic in that book. And it is astonishing that not just me, every one of the people who have gone through that, when they go back and look at it, they're like, I didn't see that line before. Where was it? I didn't see that paragraph before. Where was it? And I tell you, it's as if that book is possessed. Okay, that's all. It's like a Jumanji, you know, type of movie, type of situation with it. Huh? And what I realized is he put multiple layers into that book. There are multiple layers of wisdom in that book that when you are at different levels, you only see the level that opens up to you. It is like invisible ink type of thing. It's like, there are words that you see at one level, and then as you grow, you start to see the next layer of words. And then as you grow, you see the next. So yes, though I'm very down on books and bookish knowledge, what we call Kitab Guru, the guru who's a book, Kitab Guru, because I feel it limits the teachings. It has its own role. And as my yoga research mentor, Madan Mohanji, who's such an amazing man, one of the few medical authorities who would give credit to each and every member of the team when it came to publishing research. Now, most of the time, the people who work don't find their names on the papers. And today I saw a few comments on that on Facebook, and I'm reminded of how great a man he is, that he realized each one of us needed to be supported. But he made a beautiful statement, which I believe he got someplace. And he said, books are for the obedience of fools. Books are for the obedience of fools and the guidance of the wise. The books are for the obedience of fools and for the guidance of the wise. When you can use the book to guide you, don't get stuck in the book, but use the book to guide you. It is only the scaffolding for your own journey. It is only the road map for your journey. You have to walk that journey. But if you think standing on the map is going to get you someplace, you're not going to go anyplace. When we want to introspect, the biggest danger on this introspectional one is the tendency to identify, and this is because we are ignorant of who we truly are. And so we think, I am this body, I am the name I have been given, I am the educational qualification I have, I am the job profile I have been given, I am my credit card number, I am my social security number, I am my email password. And the moment we start identifying with all of this stuff that is not really us, what happens is every time we try to go in, we get stuck. Because what happens is we are afraid that one thing to which we have identified or the other is going to suffer. We are afraid because the moment we start to identify, we don't want to change. This is the biggest risk here, is when you start to go in, you start to identify, and the moment you identify, you say, that's me, accept me as I am, that's what I am, that's what you get, and finished. The journey stops there. This is why the avidya, as Patanjali tells us, is the mistaking of the impermanent to be the permanent, the impure to be the pure, suffering to be pleasure, and the non-self to be the self. He says, anitya, asuchi, dukkha, anatmasu. Nitya, suchi, sukha, atma kyatir avidya. Very clear verse by Patanjali. The best definition of what avidya is has been given. This is the confusion. So what happens is the moment we start to go in, instead of realizing, I am not this thing that I'm identifying with. What happens is the klesha says, that is you. And the moment the klesha brings that asmita into the equation, due to avidya, the asmita, the sense of me. And the moment it is me, immediately I have to be correct. Immediately I have to survive. Immediately, I have to be the one who is correct and everybody else is wrong. So what has happened is the kleshas are playing the tricks on us, which is where, for the purpose of going inside and non-identification, we need to develop the most important quality called vairagya. And Patanjali gives us the twin tools, abhyasa and vairagya. Why does he give us these tools? Because in the process of, from the process of self-effort, there is a tendency to identify and get attached to it. It is my self-effort. I am going to do it. It's very good for abhyasa. But what has happened is there has been too much of me, that you have actually gone right through the target and missed the target. It is like people, I love you so much, and they end up killing the person they love. It's called death by love. We talked about it in Yantra a bit when we were doing that. Death by love. You love someone so much, you hold them so tight, they cannot breathe. That is the danger with abhyasa alone. That I am going to do it, I am going to do it, I am going to do it, I am going to do it. And that is why Patanjali says abhyasa has to be tempered with vairagya. Vairagya is the ability to step back. Vairagya, the modern term would be metacognition. The modern term is metacognition. The ability to cognize without identification. So you are able to experience what you are feeling just as a feeling rather than saying, I am feeling this. You start to experience your thought without saying, I am thinking it. This is a very important component here, the metacognitive capacity, which is vairagya, which is to do with the prefrontal cortex. This part of your brain, the prefrontal cortex, the neocortex, this is the part that has that capacity. Viveka and vairagya, discernment and metacognition is here. And that is where you can stop identifying, because what happens is you, instead of saying, I am feeling angry, you say anger. You say anger is there. Instead of saying, I am angry. See, the moment you say, I am angry, you cannot get rid of that anger because you have identified with it. The moment you say, I am sad, you're not going to get rid of it because you have identified. And once you identify, it has become your property. And once it's become your property, nobody wants to lose their property. People kill each other for property. Isn't that the whole history of humankind? People killing each other over land. And they still do it. Even as I speak, India and China at the border are having issues. India and Pakistan always have it. Israel and Palestine have it. Everybody, each place has their own share of it. The French and the English have had it. It's not unique to any one part of the world. Every part of the world has this issue. The moment you identify, it becomes your property. You don't want to let go. And that is why the metacognitive capacity is developed here. How do you develop it? That is where we were doing practices like the prana kriya. The last 96 days today, and still counting, we have been doing our morning sessions, and so many of you have been with me in those sessions. And we have been doing the prana kriya, where you feel the prana, the energy move as you breathe in, moving out, and as you breathe out, moving back in and settling into the ajna, going through the bhrumadhya. What you are doing with the prana kriya, this flow of moving out and back in, moving out and back in. What you are doing is you are developing the capacity to use this part of your brain. Normally we are not. Normally we are using the back of our brain that is just making sure respiration, circulation, and digestion are taken care. That is the brain stem that keeps us alive. And if your brainstem goes out, you're brain dead. Thank you. You can donate your organs to somebody and get on with their life. Brainstem, what does it do? The brainstem is where the root klesha, abhinivesha, survival instinct is there. And that is what we are always using. We are always like, how can I survive? Physically, mentally, emotionally, financially, socially, even spiritually. Seriously, I tell you, we are constantly caught in this survival. And that is what then triggers the fear that we are going to lose something. And because of that fear, we identify even more. That is why the back of the head, when we do our kriya, what do we do? Me, 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 me. This is the me, which is so locked in me. And then we shift here. Thee. This is where the buddhi, the higher intellect can come alive. The consciousness can come alive, and suddenly we say, I don't have to worry about it. It's not about survival at all. It is not about survival at all. We make every smallest thing into a life or death matter. And the moment you make it life or death, you trigger the stress reaction. Now, my medical colleagues will say it's Dr. Ananda, it's the stress response. Huh? And I'm like, seriously, to HELL with that. Seriously, it's not a response at all. Response means it has come from a conscious, mindful part of you. The stress response is totally something that just goes through you. You really have no control over it once it starts. It is like the avalanche that happens. The snowball, if you are not careful, becomes the avalanche, and the whole stress response. The hypothalamus gets involved, the HPA axis, the hypothalamo-pituitary adrenal, which is the one part. The hypothalamus affects your sympathetic nerves, and that affects your adrenal medulla, adrenaline. So the short-term stress, the long-term stress, all of it comes in. Once it comes in, once your hypothalamus gets involved, everything, the rest of you has gone. And then you have no control over it. It's just going to happen. It's the avalanche has happened. Now, before the hypothalamus gets involved, you have the choice. That is what yoga teaches us. You have a choice before the hypothalamus gets involved. That is the cerebral cortex, which can say, this is not a life or death matter. And the moment you consciously tell yourself, this is not life or death, the hypothalamus says, I don't have to get involved. There's no problem. But if for every smallest of things you say, oh, it's life or death, deadline, 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 deadline. What is this deadline? Killing people with deadlines. Huh? No wonder everybody dies. If you don't get it done in time, you're dead. That's the meaning. Life or death, life or death. And constantly the hypothalamus is coming into play, the pituitary is coming into play, the HPA, the adrenals, the squirting adrenaline, like anything. And then you have what is called adrenal fatigue, because the adrenals have been squirting adrenaline for everything that has come. Somebody said hello to you and you had an adrenaline response. Why should you get... Seriously, we are at such a paranoid society today. We are a paranoid society. Imagine somebody sneezing in a public space right now. Oh my God. Everybody's so paranoid. Huh? In India, in Bangalore, somebody sneezed at a traffic junction. Everybody beat him up for sneezing. I tell you seriously, we as a race, we are, if we are the top of the evolutionary ladder, God, I really don't want to know the rest of the story. Huh? If we are the top of this evolutionary ladder, because we are such a mess. Paranoid, psychotic, fear, psychosis, paranoid, flat-nailed, featherless bipeds that we are. Everything is a life or death matter. No wonder the stress responses gets kicked in. And this part is where you can say that person just got some dust in his nose from the traffic and sneezed it out. and we say, God bless you. When people used to sneeze, we used to say, God bless you. Nowadays, we are like, ah! What is the difference? Perception. And that is why the key to managing stress, the key to managing fear lies in changing our perception. And that is what yoga is all about. Making a conscious decision about how you are going to perceive yourself and the world around you. And the first step to that is to stop identifying. Because the moment you identify, you feel threatened. Now, if you start thinking, this is not about me, this is about something bigger, you have just immediately transformed the whole perception. And this is why I like to tell a story, and those who have been in my sessions, you may think it's coming again and again, but again and again is a good japa, okay? And that is why nagging works so well. Nagging is the most efficient tool. Because what you do is you do it again and again and again and again, and you get the job done, okay? That is what mantra japa is all about. It is the spiritual nagging technique, okay? You have never heard it that way. Mantra japa is the spiritual nagging technique. Ananda's weird humor. Yes, it surfaces today. Because what are you doing? The same thing is being done again and again and again. Om, 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 om. And that drop is falling. Drop, 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 drop. And the water slices the stone apart. The stone gives way to the water because of the water. Drop, 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 drop. The perseverance of water. That is the perseverance of the japa. The japa is that same perseverance that the water has. Om, 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 om. Huh? Doesn't matter what you do. But if it is om, it is nice. Most of the time we are going pain, 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 pain. Or we are going problem, 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 problem. And then we wonder why we don't solve our problems. Because we have been doing a japa. Problem, 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 problem. And the universe says, you must love this so much. Here's a few more pounds of it. Huh? We should be doing japa on solution, 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 not problem, problem. Instead of pain, pain, disease, disease, that is the pathogenesis. Pathogenic focus is disease, disease, disease. The salutogenic focus is health, 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 wellness, 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 health, growth, health, wellness. That is the mantra japa of salutogenesis. That is the mantra japa of wellness. Where does this change? Right here. This is the place where you have the power of choice. And as I have said earlier, the power of choice is the superpower of being human. The power of choice is the superpower of being human. Because animals are bound by instinct. The moment you have been blessed to be human, you have been blessed with the capacity to choose. And that is why Viktor Frankl made that beautiful statement. He said, in the space between stimulus and response lies the freedom of choice. Between stimulus and response, in that space is Vairagya. Vairagya is the space where you can make the choice. And you make a choice. You make a choice that I am not going to get identified with my thoughts, my emotions. I am going to observe my thoughts and emotions with a dispassionate, non-subjective, objective manner. And the moment you do that, clarity comes in. And every time you identify, this is, a lot of the times it is a linguistic tool. And that is why when my patients come to me, or as people call them clients, or I think the best word is care seekers. That's a beautiful word, care seeker. They are seeking care. When they come to me and I say, Namaste, who are you? So many of them, they say, I am a cancer patient. I am a diabetes patient. I am a heart patient. And I'm like, why have you identified with your disease so much? They have actually identified with the disease so much. How are you going to get rid of that disease? When they have identified and made it their property. The first step is the non-identification. Lord Krishna, Yogeshwar Krishna in the Bhagavad Gita, he makes a beautiful statement. And yes, though I am against bookish knowledge, if you have to study two texts, one is the Yoga Sutras and the second is the Bhagavad Gita, especially the yoga components, which are about 100, let's say 108 for the sake of the number 108. And yes, that is one of my future courses, 108 yoga verses of the Bhagavad Gita. I think that would be a nice one for me also. I would learn a lot by teaching that. There are at least 100 plus verses out of the 700 that are directly related to yoga. That is why it is a yoga scripture. Many people think it is a Hindu religious scripture. There are religious components, I do not deny it. But the yoga components are so strong in it that for me, the Bhagavad Gita is a yogic scripture. And in India, we struggle because the moment I say Bhagavad Gita in any committee meeting, people say, oh, we have to be secular and we cannot have religious texts. And I'm like, Bhagavad Gita is a yogic scripture. They say, no, it's a Hindu scripture. And oh my God, I struggle with the ignorance in so many committees. In fact, I am on the verge of sort of just saying, get out of all these committees, all these associations, and just be, I don't know, a freelancer Ananda. Because, you know, seriously, this bureaucracy of organizations stifles who you are, stifles yoga. When religion got organized, God walked out. And as yoga is getting organized, real yoga is walking out, or rather has walked out. And I tell you seriously, to keep that yoga in the modern yoga world, I am struggling. I'm struggling day by day. It's becoming worse and worse. At the same time, I know the use of organizations. I know the use of these committees, and they have a place and they have their own good, which is why I still am there. But sometimes I really wonder, because the lone voice sometimes becomes the foreigner. Because someone who speaks a different language is a foreigner, right? The one, my father used to say, the forerunner, the one who is ahead of times becomes the foreigner. Because they are so far ahead of times that they are a threat to the rest. And you become a threat. Now, luckily, my nature is still quite diplomatic and still quite smiling and hugging. And so I get away with a lot of this. But I think as I come to my 54th birthday in a few years, well, watch out. The non-diplomatic Ananda is going to surface more and more. And I'm sure that a lot of these committees are going to have more trouble with me. Anyway, from that rant, let's come back. That was a bit of gangster yogi coming in. Identification. The moment you identify, what has happened is then you start to say, I am so bad. I am the worst. And this is where the negative ego comes in. There is one ego which is like, I am the best, only me. That is one ego. But then there's another ego which is actually more dangerous, which is, I am the worst. I am no good. I am the bottom of the pile. I am the floor mat. You are not a floor mat. You are a thinking, breathing, living human being who has the opportunity of making choice and growing spiritually. So you are not a floor mat. Do not think you are a floor mat. Do not think you are the bottom of the pile. You have been born human being. To be born human is a blessing. We are fortunate to be born human. Can we be responsible to keep that blessing and live as human beings? Share what it is to be human. Then we are living up to it. But this self-depreciation, Lord Krishna again in the Bhagavad Gita tells us. He says very clearly in the Bhagavad Gita, he says, Uddared Atma Atmanam. Lift yourself by yourself. Lift the self by the self. It is the self-effort that lifts you. Nobody else can do it for you. Uddared. Ud means to lift. Uddared Atman Atmanam. Natmanam avasadaye. Do not depreciate yourself. Do not condemn yourself. Lift the self by the self. Do not condemn yourself or do not belittle yourself. And then he says, you are your best friend and you are also your worst enemy. Such a beautiful verse. Atmaiva Atmano Bandhu Atmaiva Ripu Atmanaha. For you, you are your best friend when you understand yourself. When you understand yourself, you are your best friend. And when you don't understand yourself, you can be your worst enemy. Such an amazing verse that puts the responsibility in our court. We have to take responsibility. That is the key. And the Yama Niyama are a manifestation of our choice to be responsible for our own life. They are a statement of purpose. I will be responsible for my own life. That is the statement of purpose the Yama Niyama give us. That is why they are the Adhikara Yoga. Because they enable us to take that stand on which other things can happen. So when you start to look at yourself, when you turn the camera inwards, it is important not to identify. And that is why, again, Lord Krishna and the Bhagavad Gita. For me, I love it when Krishna and Patanjali say the similar thing. It sort of reiterates something in me very deep. I just love it when it goes together. I would say for the first three padas, the first three parts of the Yoga Sutra, Bhagavad Gita, and that go along very beautifully. For the fourth part, I found another text, the Yoga Vashishta, that to be a very good companion for the Kaivalya Pada. This is actually how I have sort of found this connotation, and it keeps growing, keeps growing. Lord Krishna says, you know, everybody talks about yoga is union, yoga is union, yoga is union. Yoga is union of the body, mind, spirit. Yoga is the union of the individual with the cosmos. Yoga is union, yuj. You get this all the time. Lord Krishna gives a different definition. He says yoga is disunion. And you're like, wow. The one place where yoga is defined as disunion is in the Bhagavad Gita, where he says to detach from your tendency to attach to suffering. He says we have a tendency to attach to suffering. It's just astonishing. As someone said, our human mind seems to be Velcro to negativities. The human mind seems to be Velcro to negativities and Teflon to positivities. And I think that is just such an amazing statement. The negativities just get stuck so hard like Velcro, and the positivities like Teflon, they just don't stick. It's just astonishing, I tell you. And what is Krishna telling us? Yogeshwara Krishna. Krishna goes through three parts. Baby Krishna, the naughty Krishna, stealing butter and blah, 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 blah. And then you have the youthful Krishna who's playing around with all the gopikas and having a lot of fun, dancing and singing and playing the flute and taking everybody into infatuated states of ecstasy. And then you have the mature Krishna, who's Yogeshwar Krishna, giving the teachings of yoga to Arjuna. And three-dimensional aspects of Krishna. Very beautiful, very beautiful. We all go through these three dimensions. Krishna is the highest consciousness. We all evolve through it. We are Krishna. Our consciousness is Krishna. The unconscious part of us that is struggling is Arjuna. So both Krishna and Arjuna are within us. The whole Bhagavad Gita is occurring within us. It is a story of our higher consciousness guiding us towards the light. It is not, did it happen on a battlefield? And as someone said, I think it's hilarious, the ignorance in the modern yoga world, where someone in the yoga world of all things said the Bhagavad Gita is a text that justifies violence. Huh? They say Bhagavad Gita justifies violence. And I'm like, seriously, you need to get to a psychiatrist as soon as possible. Huh? Hopefully someone who has a bit of yogic perspective also. Seriously, if you can go to the Bhagavad Gita and think it is a text that justifies violence, you really need a shrink. Really need a shrink. I tell you that. Sorry about that, but seriously, the ignorance is just so blissful. As Swamiji used to say, ignorance is wonderful. It's just so blissful. Blissful ignorance. Coming back to the Bhagavad Gita, lift the self by the self, and this is the key here. When you are looking at yourself, when that CCTV, your personal CCTV of Swadhyaya, as Amma said, Swadhyaya is the yogic selfie. When you have turned the camera on yourself, just realize what is going on is a temporary phenomenon. It is not you. This is where you have created a non-attachment, a viyoga, as Krishna says. He says, dukkha, which is suffering, dukkha samyoga, your tendency to go and hug your suffering, identify with your suffering. It's called dukkha samyoga. He says, viyogam, V-I, viyogam, which means to detach, to come away from it. This is what you have to consciously do it. Every time you feel angry and you say, I am angry, you think, who is it who's angry? Anger is an emotion being experienced by you. You are not angry. You are experiencing an emotion called anger. You are having a certain thought that is going through you. That is why one of the very beautiful contemplative techniques, Swamiji used to talk about Brahma Muhurta meditation. Sitting quietly for contemplation at God's own hour, which is said to be a couple of hours before sunrise. In India, it would be about 4 a.m. And you are just sitting there. I think some of you are 4 a.m. in your countries with me. And seriously, I admire you. My love to each and every one of you who's there at 4 a.m. I would not get up at 4 a.m. to listen to myself, okay? So you just deserve my love. You deserve a big warm embrace, okay? A big warm hug from all the way from here, because you are just, I love you. I love each and every one of you. Huh? You enable me to be the best version of myself. I am the best version of myself when I'm teaching, okay? So you enable me to be the best version of myself. That just is so wonderful. This 4 a.m. So you are already in a Brahma Muhurta meditation. So that is the plus point of this course for those of you who are there. You know what? Swamiji used to say, just observe your thoughts like a ticker tape. He said, just like, in the news, they have the running headlines just going by. He said, just observe your thoughts just going by. Do not hold them. Do not grasp them. This is where the yama of aparigraha. Graha means to grasp. Parigraha means to catch hold. Aparigraha means non-grasping. Don't grasp your thoughts. Don't grasp your emotions. So whatever we are talking about is actually part of the yama niyama. I am not just going off on a tangent, okay? We always come back to where we are. Don't worry. Anyway, whatever. Grasping. Don't grasp that thought and say, this is my thought. Growing up with monkeys, real monkeys, okay, not human versions, was a very good lesson, because, any food is placed and, they put it in the mouth, and then it's sort of, they have this elastic cheeks. So it goes. Huh? I see humans doing that these days, stuffing themselves, stuffing your face, they call it. Monkeys used to do that. And it's always like, and then once it's here, then they are like, the rest of the day, they are chewing on whatever they have inside. They've got it. They have caught it. We are like that. This is my thought. This is my idea. This is my emotion. Me, mine. Just let it flow. That is the idea of this. Quiet, passive contemplation. It's called Sakshi Bhava. Sakshi means a witness. Sakshi Bhava means an attitude of being a witness. You are just a witness to these thoughts going by. You are not identifying with it. This is a very, very important technique. It doesn't happen immediately. Practice. We are always practicing. We are not going to be perfect straight away. Practice, and one day it starts to become natural. It starts to become spontaneous. It starts to become what is called sahaja. Sahaj means spontaneous, where you start to just watch the thoughts as they go by. Not saying this is mine. Then the second part, that is such a bad thought. Why did I have it? That is so negative emotion. I thought I was better than that. Nah, just it's a the garbage is going by. Why you want to call it your garbage? It's going by, that's all. Just watch it going by. It's like, when you're watching the luggage. I don't know next when I'm going to be on a plane. So we have saved a lot of carbon. But when you're waiting for your luggage and the luggage is going round and round and you have these 350 pieces of luggage and everybody's getting the luggage except yours. Only your luggage is not coming. Everybody else's is coming. It's an amazing moment. I have been there, done that, okay? And you're seeing it. You are waiting for your luggage. The other luggage goes by. You are not going and grabbing, hopefully, I hope you have enough social consciousness that you are not going and taking everybody's luggage off the luggage rack. What you do is that you just let it go by. It is just going by. You're just watching it. And then at the opportunity of the opportune moment when your luggage comes, you say, okay, fine, this is the one I need. I don't need all that others. It's not mine. It is a very beautiful concept to keep in mind. Just like that, all these thoughts, all these emotions are going. That is the Sakshi Bhava. To just be a witness. Just a beautiful witness and just let it go by, that ticker tape. So one, don't identify. Second, don't start to say, my luggage looks bad. My luggage is dirty. Only my luggage is dirty. This is again, everybody is better than me. Everybody's thoughts are so noble. I am the one having dirty thoughts. When Swamiji was asked, Swamiji, do you have the power to read minds? Swamiji, do you have the siddhi to read people's minds? Swamiji said, I don't read dirty books. Such a practical living Swami he was. He said, I don't want to read all these dirty books that are people's minds. I'll tell you what, everybody has the same problem. Subtle varieties. The human genome, if I'm not wrong, is about 98% the same for all of us. The human genome, while studying with Divya for her exams, we read about the Human Genome Project. The human genome is about 98%, I think it said. It was close to that at least, if not more than that. Is similar to everyone. It is only in that less than 2% that all the varieties of the human beings are found. And then we are fighting over color, religion, race, ethnicity. Seriously, the politicians are just so great at divide and rule. They are masters of divide and rule. We are all one and the same. Why are we fighting? 98% of the DNA, the genome is the same. The differences are so subtle. And yet, We harp on the differences. Seriously, pathetic. Instead of seeing the beautiful oneness that is there in each and every one of us. That is why yoga teaches respect for every form of life, not just human, every form of life. Nature. You have to respect nature. You have to have gratitude to nature. You have to have gratitude for life itself. So, no identification, no condemnation. Because the moment you start condemning, you know what is going to be next? We'll start justifying it. I am like this because of, fill in the blank. I am like this because of my parents. I am like this because of my husband. I am like this because of society. I am like this because of my boss. You know, people who always say, I am a very nice person, but she makes me mad. You're mad. That's all. I am peace loving, but they make me angry. That anger is someplace in you. You have to deal with it. This thing of always blaming somebody else, that is why all cultures have scapegoats. Every human culture has had a scapegoat in some way or the other. And in India, we are always, people, you go into the villages, it is still there. Somebody will kill a goat or a buffalo or a chicken or something to get rid of something. You are doing the mistake, and then that poor goat. That is why scapegoat came into our linguistic thing, that kill a goat to get rid of your sin. Come on, the poor goat, what did it do? We are always looking for scapegoats. That is why Swamiji used to say the first step is to take responsibility for yourself, which means to say no excuses. That statement of Swamiji was a very strong statement, I tell you. If somebody was late for class, oh my God, it didn't matter if you had had a flat or, your house was on fire, no excuses. Seriously, tough guru. People are like, oh, Swamiji must have been so nice to study with Swamiji, and poor thing, we have to study with Dr. Ananda. We would have loved to study with Swamiji. It would have been so nice, so nice. Yeah. You really don't know it. Yesterday, Gajendran talked about getting a beating from Swamiji because Gajendran nearly drowned in our swimming pool, and Swamiji said, you need a lesson with, Kundalini arousal. Kundalini arousal is the key word for getting a spanking, okay? Getting your Kundalini primed for arousal. Swamiji was a tough taskmaster, okay? But that was the beauty of it. No excuses, no shortcuts. You had to do it for yourself. He was there, but you had to experience it for yourself. No guru can do it for you. You have to do it for yourself. This is where this justification tendency that comes in. I had that thought because of that. I had that emotion because of this. No. That is why no identification, no condemnation, no justification. Just start to observe yourself. And when you start to observe yourself, you start to see what needs to be changed, what needs to be worked on, what needs transformation. So the base of Adhikara Yoga is the power of choice. The power of choice that comes from us deciding to take responsibility for our own life. When we start to take responsibility for our own life and we say, I am going to make that choice, it is a big step in consciousness. It is the moment of awakening, is when you realize in the present moment, you can make a choice that can change destiny. Because destiny lies in the present moment. The seed of destiny, the bija, the seed, the bija, of destiny lies in the present moment. And your power of choice is the consciousness that awakens that seed, and the seed starts to sprout. How does that seed sprout? With the power of your choice. Because where your mind goes, the energy flows. Where your mind goes, the energy flows. And when you make a choice, you are empowering that seed. You are giving that seed the energy it needs to sprout and grow into what it needs to be. Such an important moment. And that is where you have seeded the whole manifestation of becoming an Adhikarin. It is in that moment, by the power of choice, that you are seeding your future as an Adhikarin. Because as long as that choice is not there, we are going to feel we are a victim of circumstances. This is why Patanjali, when he talks about the Yama Niyama, he gives a very, very important sutra. This sutra, and I have sent you some handouts. The handouts which are in 2 files. And in case you haven't got those handouts, please email me later today and I will send them again to you. I have emailed you the whole of the Sadhana Pada from my Yoga Sutras book, my Yoga Darshana book. The whole Sadhana Pada I have sent because all of this basically is found in the Sadhana Pada. All of these concepts and these teachings are found in it. So I have given you that whole section of my book. And also I have sent you another file which is called the Living the Yama Niyama, which was 13 sessions I gave some years ago. And you won't believe it was for the kids at Yoganjali Natyalayam during the May summer intensive. And my kids are such beloved kids, all of them at Yoganjali, that I decided that month of May that we had 13 sessions and we dealt with the Yama Niyama. I tell you seriously, beautiful teachings came out, and Dr. Meena at that time had taken notes. And so we compiled the notes which I have shared with you. And in case you haven't got them yet, mail me this evening and I'll send you a copy. So coming to the verse I'm talking about here. When Patanjali talks about the Yama Niyama, in verse 31 of Sadhana Pada, verse 31 of Sadhana Pada, he gives very clear statement here. The very clear statement given in verse 31 of Sadhana Pada is Jati Desha Kala Samaya Anavachinna Sarvabhauma Mahavratam. He says the Yama Niyama are Mahavratam. They are great vows. The vow that is taken. It is like taking an oath. You're taking an oath. You're taking a vow that is of a grand, great nature. Yama Niyama are not throwaway techniques. They are not throwaway things. He said they are the grand oath we are taking, the grand vow we are taking, that what we will be, not what we will do, what we will be. Because yoga is all about being, not doing. That is why a yogi is a good human being. Don't let doing determine you. Being is what should determine us, what we are being. He says, these are Sarvabhauma, universal. These are not just for Dr. Ananda. These are not just for Laura or for Kalavati or for Gitan or for Divya or for Kim or for Megan or for Mark or for Shobana or for Michael or my dear Janaki or for Radu. or for Dr. Nizar or Dr. Birgit or my dear Soundarajan, Anil Soundarajan, I'm going to call you from now on. Anil is the squirrel. Anil Soundarajan is his new pet name from my side. Huh? These are not just for, oh, these type of people have to do it, not me. Patanjali is very clear. He says these are universal. That is why Swamiji said the Yama Niyama are no option yoga. He said they are no option yoga. And it is amazing what Patanjali says here. He says, Jati Desha Kala Samaya Anavachinna. He says, these are not limited to any genus or class of people. Oh, only Indians have to follow it, not us Americans. Only Europeans had to follow it, not South Americans. Na. Sorry, not like that. Patanjali is very clear. He says, it is not limited by any class or creed or any genus or any division. Desha, oh, only people who are in Asia have to follow it. Australia doesn't have to because Australia is a big island which is a continent. So we are surrounded by water, so we don't have to do it. No, you people have to do it more, okay? Especially to make up for the politicians you have. Well, we all have the same, okay? I think politicians, every place in the world are the same. So let's not think about them. No identification, condemnation or justification when we think about our politicians because they are all one and the same. They deserve to be in the trash bin. Okay, fine. Now that I got that part out, let's get on. Jati Desha Kala, any point of time. Oh, Patanjali wrote his Yoga Sutras 2000 years ago. These are not applicable nowadays. Times have changed. I once got an article from a friend of mine who was the editor of a yoga magazine, and he said, Ananda, I want you to go through this article that has been submitted by a yoga teacher from New York. And I said, okay, no issue. He said, you will really blow your lid. I said, okay, go ahead. Let's see what it is. And this article was from a yoga teacher in New York, how Maharishi Patanjali's teachings are totally not relevant to modern times. And it really blew my lid. In fact, reading through the 10 pages of that article, I think was one of the ones which got my blood pressure the highest it has ever been. The amount of bile in my system must have been the highest because seriously, it was such a load of, you know what. And I'm like, this is a yoga teacher. Patanjali's teachings are as relevant today as they have ever been, and they will always be relevant as long as we human beings are on this planet. Because Patanjali is from the future, he is a time traveler, he is not from the past. I tell you, Maharishi Patanjali's teachings are just, every moment I'm like, how did this guy know what is going on right now? What we are going through right now, such amazing answers are there in Patanjali's teachings. So, not the time frame, and the last one, samaya, circumstances. Oh, what could I do? I had to be like this. Oh, what could I do? I cannot do it. I will do it today, but not tomorrow. On Sundays, I won't, but on Saturdays, I will. He says none of that. He says, do not let these universal grand oath, the grand vows, the principles by which you are going to live, do not let them be limited by any species, country, time frame, or circumstances. He says they are universal. That is the type of importance given to the Yama Niyama, that they are principles that are eternal. They are principles that need to be part and parcel of every moment of our life. And that is why people are scared of them, because that takes a lot of effort. The amount of effort that it takes is so much that people are scared of it. But you know what? If you want to build muscles, if you want to build your 6-pack, 8-pack, or whatever the young guys like to do, Anandaji runs around trying to develop a 6 and 8-pack. And I say, yes, I also have a 6 and 8 pack, in fact, a 10 pack. But, you know, with my mobile phone, if you look at my mobile phone, this is an amazing phone. And in fact, this is the best example. It is a very sleek model and it is very nice. But in order to protect it, I put it in this heavy, thick cover. Okay, you can see. So that is the same with my 6-pack. My 6-pack and 8-pack is covered with a very good protective layer. And then Anandaji is very happy. He's like, okay, fine. Yeah, so this is how you have to talk to these young people when they talk about it. If you want that muscular body, if you want to develop that 6-8 pack or whatever people want, you have to work for it, okay? Unless you are good in Photoshop. That's a different story. Photoshop, you can do anything you want. But otherwise, you have to work for it. Yama niyama like that. If you want to be an adhikarin, if Adhikara Yoga is to be your foundation, you have to work for it. It is very, very important that we need to take another look at this whole thing, because we are afraid of self-effort. But without self-effort, how can there be self-growth? You know, the whole process. And Abraham Maslow gives this beautiful concept of self-actualization. A very beautiful concept of self-actualization. But before self-actualization, there has to be self-knowledge. For self-knowledge, there has to be self-analysis. So self-analysis leading to knowledge of the self-knowledge, leading to self-actualization, and then you keep going until self-realization occurs. So one step ahead of that self-actualization is self-realization. And who has to make the effort for self-realization to occur? The self. Nobody can do it for you. Nobody can eat for you. If I say I'm going to have my food and, you know, Radu is going to get the benefit of me eating the pizza, he's not going to get the benefit of me eating the pizza. Well, he's got the benefit in that he didn't get all those calories. So, okay, fine. You have got the benefit of not eating the pizza because I ate it. But if you want the benefit of eating something, you have to eat it. If you want to have the benefit of drinking something, you have to drink it. If you want to have the benefit of being an adhikaran, you have to make this self-effort for yourself. That is where the concept of yama niyama as a choice-based system. In universities, we talk about choice-based credit system. Choice-based credit system, CBCS in all universities. You know what that is? Yama niyama. Yama niyama is the original choice-based credit system. You make a choice and you earn the credit that enables you to be the adhikaran you need to be. Choice-based credit system of yoga is yama niyama. A very, very amazing concept that we need to work on. Now, you know, each and every anga, and later on I'll share with you a beautiful image that I came upon last week on the net. And it is an image which is the best artistic depiction of Ashtanga Yoga I have ever seen. And I wrote to the person personally and told them, I really, really appreciate, and they had put the image up for free use, saying just please credit us, but free use, no copyright, no all that stuff. I love that concept of copy left. They said you can use it, but just, you know, mention it. One of the best ever depictions, and what they had done is made like a mandala. It looks strikingly similar to Kalavati's mandala she has in her studio. She has a very beautiful mandala on the wall of her studio. It's very strikingly similar to that. And each of the parts of this mandala were from yama, niyama, asana, pranayama, leading to samadhi at the center. And how samadhi is where it all comes together. It is very, very beautiful image. And I think this is something that we need to really look at again. We really need to look at this concept of understanding how each piece is making the whole. Because one of the biggest issues with the translation of the term Ashtanga Yoga has been that in the past, people have translated it as the 8 steps or the 8 rungs. And what has happened is people have got this hierarchy that Yama is the first step, Niyama is the second step, Asana is the third step, and Samadhi is the 8th step. Now, I understand where that came from. I can understand the linguistic translation where that has come from. But what we forget then is how each is actually part of the other. As you work on the Yama, actually you already started to work on Samadhi. And as you are working on Dharana, Dhyana, Samadhi, your Yama Niyama is getting refined into a much higher level of consciousness. So each is feeding onto each other. And in fact, there is a very good image which many years ago when I did this, I had put it. I will see if I can find which page it is on. It is on page 19 of this Living the Yama Niyama handout. This one, page 19, where you find an image at the bottom here. And I will, if you have a look at it, you will see this one, this image which is down there. Maybe what I can do is just open it up on the screen. Just give me 1 second. This is an earlier one also there. I think what happened is, okay, should open it and then try to screen share. Something is happening, so let's hope it opens up. Because this image, if I can find it, rather than hypothetically discussing it, I think this is a good place to discuss this image actually. I'll just go back 1 second. I think what I need to do is open it and then come back. Okay, I think now something may come. Let me go back and try screen sharing. Okay. Something has changed here in the desktop. Screen sharing, no, it's not on. You don't see the screen, do you? No, you're still seeing me. Anyway, you can look at me a bit more while I'm trying to search. This is Dr. Ananda's bemused, confused look in case you haven't seen it before. So don't worry about it. What I don't understand is why I'm not seeing. I'm not seeing my share screen part. Okay. Okay. I am not getting this share screen part here. And I think the reason is something else. You're not seeing it, right? For some reason, it is not showing my tool box. Okay. Anyway, I'll come back to that in a few moments. I think what happened is trying to do it in the reverse. I should have had it open earlier. This may be. Okay. So what has happened is my toolbar is not showing me the now my computer is confused with me. Is okay. I think I should be able to get it now. Okay. If I open it from here. Take it. I think it's okay. I'll come back to that again because somehow my toolbar is not showing the share screen anymore. And I don't know why that has happened. Coming back to this image, the main thing I wanted to show in the image, and if it comes up, we'll see it, is this concept here of the circle and then the outer circle. I have an inner circle and the outer circle. And what I have tried to depict, this was an image made at that time, was an image where the niyamas are the inner circle and the yama, you have it as the outer circle, and they are connected to each other. And we are showing the interconnectivity. I think the main message I wanted to give with regard to this is that there is the interconnectivity between the whole system. Because otherwise what is happening is we think that the yama is different, the niyama is different, and we start to look at them in isolation. The most important message here is that do not try to understand the yama niyama in isolation. When we are talking of ahimsa, that ahimsa has to be linked to satya. They will be also linked to tapa and swadhyaya. Because what is happening is, as we go into each of these separately, we are going to, that is why we have 12 hours. We are going to go to each one separately and analyze them. But just because we analyze them separately, do not think that they are separate. It is like we say, no human is a separate island. All of us are interconnected. The same thing with the yama niyama and all the limbs of yoga. Because what happens is we have a tendency to think, oh, ahimsa. And we totally focus on ahimsa, forgetting everything else. And I think this is a very big danger that we have. And I'll just give you an example for this, which happens with satya. One of the big issues with satya. Satya is taken to be speaking the truth. Now, as we discuss it in the next classes, you are going to see how it's much more than just speaking the truth. It's much wider canvas than just speaking the truth. But what happens is that there are many people who get very deeply involved with, I am going to be perfect in satya. Very nice, very nice. And they become so fanatical about it that they go around telling everybody their version of truth in the nastiest, most hurtful manner possible. And they think they're speaking the truth. I know a few of these people and I'm like, seriously, They say, I am being truthful. I'm like, no, you are being hurtful. And I think one has to be very careful here, because you cannot isolate truth and non-violence. It cannot be a reductionist perspective, because none of us actually know the truth. We have our version of the truth. And as we grow, that version expands a bit more. But we all have our version, and then we are like, I am going to foster my version on you because I am so truthful. And I kill you in the process. You have just broken ahimsa in trying to follow satya. This is a very, very important part of consciousness. That is why the yama niyama require a high level of introspection and looking at oneself, asking oneself, is it really the truth? And am I expressing the truth without breaking one of the other yamas and niyamas? Am I being non-violent? I'm going to be non-violent. And so to be non-violent, I'm going to affect satya. So I'm going to keep quiet and be non-violent. Keeping quiet is not non-violence. As when we come to ahimsa, we'll see that it is very, very intricate. So what is important here is to understand that every one is connected. Every one of the yama niyama are interconnected to each other. And similarly, every one of the ashta anga, the 8 limbs of Maharishi Patanjali's Ashtanga Yoga, they are interconnected to each other, sustaining each other. If you go to the old Indian buildings built thousands of years ago, in India, we have ancient Indian buildings built thousands of years ago still standing, modern buildings that are built 20 years ago that have fallen down. The irony of India is that ancient Indian structures, thousands of years and still standing, new modern buildings built by architects, engineers that have fallen down in 20 years. Bridges built hundreds of years ago that are still standing, and modern bridges that 2 years down the line collapse. I think we have to be very careful here. But if you go back and look at the ancient structures, often they put the different pieces together in such a way, each piece was holding the other. And so what happened is you had this whole structure where each piece was actually supporting each other, and that created the integrity of the wholesome structure. Nowadays, they build it as each piece is doing its role. It's like people in an organization. You cannot say, I will only do my role and go home. And each piece is doing its part, but then something has been missed. I always remind people that in modern medicine, we have reduced the human being to such a miniature level of what we are, that the cardiologist is only concerned with the heart, the nephrologist with the kidney, the neurologist with the brain, and we have forgotten we are dealing with a living human being, where each system is supporting each other. That is why people say, in Gitananda tradition, we have a series of practices called the hatenas. And these hatenas are practices that enhance. Before that, Paula, I really like that. An engineer friend who works on only one part of the car design has no idea what the rest of the car is like. So typical of our modern subdivisions. We have broken things down to such subdivisions that seriously we have lost track of the bigger picture. It is actually so vital. What we need to understand is that these hatenas, they work on the low, mid and upper parts of the lungs and bring them together. A unified working of low, mid and upper parts of the lungs. But here what happens is many times you hear people saying, oh, so the Hatenas are good for people who have breathing disorders. And I'm like, yes, the Hatenas are good for people who have breathing disorders, but everyone can benefit from breathing healthy. So the Hatenas are not only if somebody has a breathing disorder, I have diabetes, I will not do the Hatenas. No. The Hatenas will help you breathe more efficiently. You breathe better. If you breathe better, not only your lungs, your kidney will function better, your brain will function better, your liver will function better, because the whole body requires proper oxygenation and the carriage of the carboxyl byproducts to be expelled out. So the Hatenas are not only for the lungs, they will benefit people who have breathing disorders, but everybody can benefit from it. Because if you breathe healthy, you are going to be healthy. And in modern yoga, especially yoga therapy, we have brought in this reductionist attitude. Oh, this asana is good for this disease. Seriously. Oh my God. It's like saying Dhanurasana, the bow posture, is only good for your kidneys. Or it is only good for your back. When you do each asana, every system in your body, every cell in your body is going to get rejuvenated. But what happens is we limit it. We say, oh, this is for your back. That is for your kidney. This is for your liver. And I'm like, even in yoga, we have become reductionist. And it is pathetic the way the yoga therapy community has made everything so reductionist in this idea of trying to be like somebody else. We want to be like somebody else. We want to fit into somebody else's system. Don't try to fit into somebody else's system. You be your own system. Don't try to be in somebody else's paradigm. You be your own paradigm. That is the key element that has to come. And that is why it is so important. Yoga therapy shouldn't become prescriptive. And we have prescriptive yoga therapy these days. That is such a reductionist attitude. We have to understand every piece sustains each other. Every one of the yama niyama sustain each other. And each and every one of the yama niyama are so much in detail that one of our teachers in Canada, Gauri Shankarananda, many years ago, after doing the 6 months with us in his thesis, he wrote a whole essay where he says Patanjali's yoga is not Ashtanga, it is not 8 limbs, it is 16 limbs of yoga. Because he said each of the yama niyama is like one limb on its own. Ahimsa is its own limb, Satya is its own limb. That is, there's so much of sadhana in each. He said it is not really 8. He says it has to really be 16. And I think he was so right in that. He was so right in that, because when you get into it, the amount of depth Patanjali offers for the yama niyama in some ways is even deeper than what he gives for asana, pranayama and the others. It's quite amazing. You look at the sadhana pada, the amount of verses that are dealing with the yama niyama are so much more than what he is actually talking about other things. It's quite astonishing. He could have just said, these are the yama, these are the niyama, and gone on. Each one of the yama, each one of the niyama, he has dealt with individually. And that is why I think this concept of Adhikara yoga is so important to understand. This is the foundation of one's higher life. The Adhikaran is aiming for the higher life, not a superior life, not to make you feel superior to somebody else. There is no superior, there is no inferior. But you are evolving in your own nature from a lower level of consciousness to a higher level of consciousness. That higher life is the life of your own consciousness, not higher in comparison to somebody else. People get mistaken in the field of spirituality in yoga that this is becoming better than somebody else. Nobody is better than nobody else. We are our own scale. Nobody else is our scale. If you want to compare yourself, you are the unit of measurement. You are your own unit of measurement. Nobody else is your unit of measurement. Do not let yourself be defined by comparison with anybody else. That is what Krishna tells us. Swadharma. He says the highest dharma is your swadharma, which is to be the best you that is possible. Are you becoming a better you than you were yesterday? That's all. Are you manifesting more of the higher aspects of yourself? Are you transforming yourself? That's all. Not about anybody else, not about whether they can touch their toes or their nose or whether you can do it better than them and look better on Instagram or not. That doesn't matter at all. That's all just a superficial, I don't know, ego trip. And please remember, the Yama Niyama are the foundation. The Yama Niyama are based on choice. The Yama Niyama are based on consciousness. The Yama Niyama are based on us wishing to go on this inner journey, a journey that is retracing our way back home, which is sweet home. And I think that's a good place to stop today. We'll meet again on Saturday. This time I had a lot of thought about how to structure it. So I said, let's structure it differently, being a 3. Each time I have to structure it differently. And I said, let's try this Thursday, Saturday, especially when I realized today is a very special day. It is called Guru Pradosham. Pradosham means a day when all the negativities are removed from us. And because it's on a Thursday, it is called Guru Pradosham, a special day when the energy of the Guru enables us to get rid of negativities. And we end on a Saturday, which is also another Pradosham. These Pradoshams come every 2 weeks. And that Pradosham being on a Saturday is called Shani Maha Pradosham, which is a day when the complete negativities are removed. So I said, this is just too good to let go by. So I said, we are starting on a day where we are cleansing up stuff with the grace of the Guru. And we are ending on a day when a complete massive spring cleaning can occur. And I think it is a blessing when these things can happen. I did not plan it that way. When I looked at the days, I said, this would work out well. I looked at the calendar and I said, thank you, universe. You know to take care of my back. I don't have to worry about my back. The universe takes care of my back. And when I have all of you with me, when I have your love, when I have your support, when I have your attention, your energy moving together, I think, well, this journey is such a beautiful journey, such a beautiful journey. We'll keep it going. And next time I'll make sure the screen sharing works a bit better. We always learn, and technology teaches us a lot just when we think we know it. Today I actually had that thought. I said, we have done this a few times, so now I know what I'm doing. And the universe says, okay, Ananda, time for a minor egodectomy today. And so I get a lesson to be learned. And that's beautiful. When we can learn the lesson, I think everything is good. So thank you for choosing to be with me. It's a choice you have made. I appreciate it deeply. And we'll meet again on Saturday. And if you haven't got the handouts, please email me. I'll send them to you. And if there are any confusions that come, remember, confusion precedes fusion, which means we are on the path of knowledge. So wishing you all the wonderful blessings of the Guru Parampara. Let us close with the Loka Samasta. Om Samasta Sukhino Bhavantu Sarve Janaha Sukhino Bhavantu. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Om. Take care. Have a nice time. Bye for now. See you all later.